Boston Celtics lose their third in a row. I'll tell you why. Part of the problem is them not doing small, boring things. Plus, Jaylen Brown needs to change his shot profile, and why Joe Mazzulla scored some points on his side of the timeout debate. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here in the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I'm here for you every day with a free, fresh podcast dropped directly to your device if you are a subscriber. So make sure you are subscribed. You can do it on any podcasting app that you desire. If you want to download the audio version, if you want to watch the video, you can do so on YouTube. Subscribe there. Hop into the comments there. Discuss the game. Discuss the podcast. Tell me I'm right or wrong. It's all in there as part of a growing Celtics community. I'm John Karalis. I used to play professional basketball a long, long time ago. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal, coming to you after the Celtics 120-117 overtime loss to the New York Knicks. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Hey, thanks for making this show your first listen every day. I do appreciate you doing that. Later on, I'll get into Joe Mazzulla, why he scored some points on his side of the timeout debate. Let's talk about timeouts. Let's be fair. Let's give Joe Mazzulla a couple of points on that. Jaylen Brown, his shot profile. Let's change that a little bit. He's got to change it. He has to. I'll explain that after a game where he admittedly did not play well. But let's start with the game and the small, boring things that the Celtics didn't do on their way to this loss. They came out hot, right? At one point, they were hitting 73% of their threes. They ended up the first quarter hitting half their three-pointers, which if you're a true follower of this team, when the Celtics finished 6 of 12 in the first quarter from three, you thought, this might be bad news. And guess what? I think it was. I think one of the worst things that could have happened to this team was them hitting 6 of their first 12 three-pointers, because if you move the slider ever so slightly to about halfway through the second quarter to the end of the game, the Celtics shot 7 of 27 from three, 25.9%. So basically 26% from three the rest of the way after the midway point of the second quarter. That's not so good. And when the Celtics got going early, I think they relied on that late. And Joe Mazzulla said, our offense didn't do us any favors. Our offense put us in a position to have to basically defend turnovers. And you can't defend a turnover. Missed shots at the rim. You can't defend what happens after that because it's transition. It's like a pick six in football right at your own goal line. You're right there. You're right at the end. But all that means is there's nobody behind you. So once they get past that first line, it's a wide open field. Same thing in basketball. You miss a layup, it always turns into a layup on the other end because everybody's kind of sucked down below the free throw line. You miss, rebound, outlet, boom. It's a 2-on-1 or a 2-on-none or a 1-on-none, and it turns into points. The Celtics, they just, I think what we saw in this game was the Celtics come out strong. They came back home after a couple of tough losses in Florida. They came out, they were looking good. I mean, they were looking good to start. They had a 15-point lead in the first quarter. I don't say that to say, oh my God, they blew a 15-point lead. No, they were playing well enough to be up 15 on the Knicks. And then after things looked good. They felt comfortable. They say, okay, we've proven our point. Now let's just cruise through the rest of this game. And you know what that did? Nothing. It got them into trouble. It got them a 32-26 quarter from the Knicks. And then they gave up a 33-25 quarter in the third because they came out and they were playing basically no defense. They were allowing a ton of points. New York got 48 points in the paint to Boston's 42. Boston got away from attacking the rim. I thought in the first quarter, they not only were hitting a ton of threes, they were attacking the rim really, really nicely. With no Mitchell Robinson in there, I thought they had free run to the rim, and they kind of got away from that. The Celtics came out, played great early, then kind of cruised. Third quarter sucked. Fourth quarter, they said, oh, okay, now it's time to start really ramping this up. Let's do something here. Let's make our run. They were down, 14 at one point? And then they started aggressively doubling Mitchell. I'm not Mitchell Rob. What am I saying? They started aggressively doubling Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson. Don't worry, my brain will get there. They started aggressively doubling and forcing turnovers and forcing misses and running off of those misses. And Jayson Tatum went off in the fourth quarter. And next thing you know, a bunch of effort and some real strong, aggressive defense that we didn't see in the third quarter at all. Suddenly the Celtics were playing hard and going on a big run, which begs the question, why didn't you play this aggressively earlier? Look, the Celtics, we've seen this from the Celtics. We've seen this level of play. We've seen this kind of lapse against teams that are below them. We've seen it over and over and over again. This is a tough time of year. I know they just won 9, and I brought up this scenario to Joe Mazzulla, and he's like, no, we just won 9 in a row. It's not about the time of year. And I still agree. I still disagree with him. I think it is this time of year because you win those 9 in a row and it's hard to keep that rolling because you're like, we got it. We're cool. You know, you lose, you go into Orlando short-handed, you lose, you go into Miami, same thing, you lose. Winnable games. You come into New York, you come out strong, and all of a sudden you just let go of the rope, so to speak, and you stop doing the small, boring things, as Joe Mazzulla likes to say. The small, boring things are the things that are going to get you to win. And this is why the Celtics struggle sometimes against these bad teams. They are boring. The making sure you're getting to the right spot on the floor and you're properly spaced and that you're setting a pick at the right angle and rolling the right way and everything is precise. All the little tiny details are precise. It does get boring. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, this thing again. And it gets boring for everybody. I'm sorry. This podcast sometimes, yeah, if I'm not careful, this podcast can get boring for me. So I have to make sure that I'm bringing it every day. And I bet you, if you're one of those people, thank you for doing so, listening every day, I bet you can tell which shows you say, geez, John's, what's wrong with him? My cadence changes. My enthusiasm changes. Sometimes you wake up and you say, I don't want to do the thing I'm supposed to do today. Or whatever it is, you're fine, but this particular task, I don't want to do it. Can't I just get by without it? And invariably you cannot. Sometimes you can, but you cannot. You know it. Happens to you at work. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't. Because sometimes you do something over and over and over again. After a while, you just come into a game and you're like, I'm not feeling it. You know, Larry Bird came into a game and played left-handed one day because he was bored. Now he's Larry Bird and he gets to do that, but also they won that game by 1 and they had to play the whole game. And if that game existed in social media times and it came out after the game, oh yeah, I just got bored. I played the whole thing left-handed. I'd come onto this podcast pissed off. Like, yeah, Larry, you're great. We all love you. But you just made everybody play 15 more minutes that they didn't have to play because you decided to play left-handed. That's how that would have gone. And he's just, I was bored. So boredom happens. But if you're going to be a champion, if you're going to go out there and play and be a champion, that's the stuff you got to do. It's not exactly inspirational stuff, but that's what you got to go do. You got to go out there and do the small, boring things. That was Joe Mazzulla's message after the game. Jaylen Brown agreed with him. Jayson Tatum agreed with him. That those little things add up. And if you want to be a champion, you got to do the things that most human beings can't do. That's the irrational but necessary ask of a champion. A champion in sports does the things that most human beings cannot or are not willing to do. Whether it's practice, whether it's every day jumping into a cold tub, like literally a big giant tub of ice. I cannot express to you how crappy that is. Are you willing to do the physical work, the stuff that people don't see, the work in the gym that people don't see? Are you willing to go out there and do the little details, that stupid little crap that, yeah, I know, but are you willing to do it? Are you willing to get past that natural human tendency? They didn't do it in this game. And you say, okay, look, 3 games in a row, it sucks. Philly's now 2.5 games back. That sucks. But still the best team in the league, and you're going to go through the ups and downs. So I'm not like, coming on here and saying, what are you doing? You're ruining everything. No, it's a loss. It's fine. It's fine. But, these little losses here and there, the one in Miami, this one where you had it, you kind of had it right there and you couldn't pull it off. Those are tough. Those are tough ones to swallow. And the Celtics are going to have to find ones that you kind of pull out of your butts and you say, well, they shouldn't have won that one. And you end up pulling that one out. Now, they have a couple of those on their resume as well. You have to have a few more of those to balance these out because these hurt. Losing to the Knicks, missing that shot, Jayson Tatum, missing a very makeable, very good look at the end from the Paul Pierce spot. That would have been fantastic. I would have written a story about Paul Pierce gets to that spot and he did the exact same thing Paul Pierce does, and that would have been a fun story to do. But he missed it. If he had made that, then the entire tone changes. Still a little upset about like, okay, guys, don't put yourself in that position, but hey, you got away with it this time. They didn't get away with it. They didn't. Jaylen Brown. Let's get into Jaylen Brown because he did not have a good game. But he almost went from like the, so to speak, zero to hero. He almost did that. But if he's gonna be his absolute best self, he's gonna have to change his shot profile. And I'm gonna talk about that next. First, small business owners, hiring managers, you know that success in 2023 depends on the team members you surround yourself with. Just like the Celtics, just like they invited a bunch of people to camp, and just like they're trying to add new people to the mix, you're trying to do the same thing. Well, you don't have a free agency pool. You've got LinkedIn Jobs instead. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. I used to be a hiring manager. I also grew up in a small business. I know how hard this is. So LinkedIn Jobs can make it so much easier because it helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post, your company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. Then you identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and for free. It makes it super easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. This is why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Why not make Locked On Game to Game your second listen every day? While the Celtics were playing, 5 other NBA games were being played. You didn't catch up on, you didn't see any of them. You can catch up on all of them with Locked On Game to Game. It's on the Locked On NBA feed. It features little bits, 1 minute or so from each side to get you both sides of the story. That's how that works. Get Locked On Game to Game on the Locked On NBA feed. 2 great podcasts on one feed. You can even watch them both on YouTube. Celtics really only got, they got a bunch of kind of like okay games, I guess, but Jayson Tatum was good. Jaylen Brown was kind of not. Tatum had the big stretch in the fourth quarter and in overtime, but not enough. If I have one criticism of Tatum, though, it's that he kind of put his head down a lot. And there was a stretch in the overtime, especially, where I tweeted out, I said, because I watched Jaylen Brown just kind of like run around the perimeter saying, hey, I'm open. Come on, give me the ball. And nobody even looked Jalen's way. No one looked Jalen's way. Now, he finished the night 8 of 22, 1 of 8 from 3, 5 of 7 from the free throw line. Oh, he missed 2 free throws, John? How? Geez, I don't remember those 2 free throws that he missed. Can you tell me about them? Sure. Random person in my head. Jaylen finally gets the ball in overtime. I tweeted out, Jaylen would like to touch the ball once. They call a timeout. They come out. Boom. Jaylen drives baseline. Boom. Layup. Celtics in overtime up by 1. Celtics come down. Fouled Julius Randle. He hits 2 free throws. Celtics come down. Jaylen gets the ball again. Fouled. 2 free throws. You have a chance to win or at least tie this game with 20 seconds or so left. Jaylen misses the first. Jaylen misses the second. Crap. After the game, Jaylen says those 2 free throws basically kind of embodied the entire night. And he just fell on his sword, and respect to him for doing that. You know, he did finish with 22, but he had 3 turnovers. He shot 36%, 36.5%. Like I said, 1 of 8 from 3. And I look at this shot profile and I say, man, 1 of 8 from 3. Why are you taking 8 3-pointers? Why are you taking this many 3-pointers? It's time to address the Jaylen Brown shot profile, because the numbers, I think the numbers back up a little shift. People will say, well, 3 is more than 2, so he should be taking more 3-pointers. And I say 2 is more than 3 when you make more 2s than 3s. There's a certain percentage where the numbers say, you know what? No, more 2s, actually. And I think we're at that point. So we're 50 games into the season. Jaylen hasn't played all of them, obviously, but he's played it enough. He came into this game shooting 58% on 2-pointers. Now that's going to drop a little bit because he shot 7 of 14 on 2-pointers in this one. So that's 50%. So he shot 50%. He's going to drop. So let's just say it drops a little bit. 50, whatever it is, he's right around 58% from 2. And in that 14 to 16 foot range, couple steps in from the free throw line, a step behind the free throw line, those jumpers are generally falling at about 55%. So somewhere in that 55 to 58% range is Jaylen Brown's sweet spot. Now, 2-pointers obviously include going to the rim, and he goes to the rim very well, generally speaking. So here's why the numbers make sense to me. And I'll rattle them off, and I know I'm not a numbers guy, but hopefully those of you who are numbers people say, oh, okay, John, you're actually making sense. If he's shooting 100 shots, I like to just say 100 shots at these percentages. It's just a nice round number. It makes the percentages easy. But if he makes 100 shots at his 58% on 2-pointers, he'd score 116.2 points. 116 points. To get to 116 points on 3-pointers, he would have to shoot 38.7% to match that 2-point scoring rate. You say 38.7%. Okay, that's reasonable. All right. Well, Jaylen Brown's been in the league for 7 years. He's only crossed that twice and gotten close to it once. So 2 out of 7 seasons have been better than that. This season ain't one of them. Tell you that much. Career-wise, he's shooting 36 and change from 3. So historically, even if he has a good shooting season, 38%, I'd say perfect. 38 is great, Jaylen. Shoot 38%. But if you're going to shoot 58% on 2-pointers and 55% on those mid-range shots, then I say step in to a couple. Let's start shaving off a couple of these 3-pointers and get a couple more of these 2-pointers. Not a drastic thing. I'm not saying don't shoot any 3-pointers. You still have to be a threat. But take 2 or 3 of those 3-pointers per game and drive it. Just focus on driving it, because you're going to put up more efficient scoring nights by stepping inside the 3-point line, because your 3-point percentage is just historically not going to be good enough if your 2-point percentage is like this. That's the thing. If your 2-point percentage is this high, then you go for the 2s. And that increases your chances of getting fouled. The more 2-pointers you take, the closer to the rim you get, the more you drive. You can get a couple more 3-pointers out of this. So, 3-point plays out of this, not 3-pointers. So you can still pile up points. You can still get 3 points at a time. Just got to do it differently. You got to make the free throws. I think it's time to adjust Jaylen Brown's shot profile. And this game tells me that I think this is evidence in my favor. That Jaylen in this game shot 50% from 2, but 12.5% from 3. You got to be a threat from 3. I understand that. And I understand the math and all of that. I do get it. I do. But for Jaylen, the math is not in his favor. It's just not. He could have played a better game, but I think if you take 3 of those 3-pointers that he took and you turn those into drives, this is a different game for him specifically. They might win this game. At least, I would say, just think about it. Just think about the opportunities. Just somehow get something mentally. It's a change in the mentality. Look to attack. He had said it earlier this season too. When he attacks, he's better. He just needs to stop thinking that he's an elite 3-point shooter. You're a good 3-point shooter. Okay? You're not a great 3-point shooter. You're good. League average is, what's league average this year? Like 36.5% or so. So you're an above average 3-point shooter. You're good. So adjust your game a little bit, man. Just adjust it a little bit. You'll be an all NBA player. You'll be an all NBA player if you do it this way. And there's still, take 5 3-pointers a game. That's plenty. That's plenty of 3-pointers, plenty of opportunities. And you know what? If they're falling, go nuts. Take 8, 9, 10 of them if they're falling. Have those big games. If you're feeling it, sure. But don't have that be the default. That's all I'm saying. A couple of things happened in this game where I was like, maybe Joe Mazzulla has a point. A lot of people criticizing him for his timeout usage. A lot of it's legitimate. But Joe has a counterpoint, and there are a couple of points in this game where I was like, point to Joe Mazzulla. I'll explain those in just a minute. First, the NFL playoffs are here, and we are very, very excited to have our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because they're the number one sports book in America. It's FanDuel. And if you're new, that's great. Hell, it's even in your favor. They got so many great features that it makes betting on sports fun and easy. So you, new customer, join today and get started with $150 in free bets, guaranteed. It's not a Charles Barkley guarantee. It's an actual guarantee. All you got to do is place your first $5 bet. Sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to the point spreads to player props. You can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. It's all on an app that is safe, secure, super, super easy to use. So if you're a football fan, I know we're getting close to the Super Bowl matchups, so you don't want to miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get a $150 in free bets, win or lose. That's what a guarantee is. You win, you lose, doesn't matter. You place one $5 bet, you get $150 in free bets, but you got to do it at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Please gamble responsibly. Hey, shout out to Jayson Tatum for being an all-star starter. Congratulations to him. Jaylen Brown did not get the all-star starter, but he is definitely going to be an all-star. He was third in fan voting, so he'll definitely make the all-star team. In advance, congratulations to Jaylen for that. Looking down the rest of this box score, Al Horford was okay. It's nothing special there. Rob was good. 8 points, 12 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds. His offensive rebounding is insane. He was a plus 21. Good things happened on the floor with him. Derek White, he wasn't in foul trouble. It felt like maybe he was just complaining for other guys. 15 points. He was okay. He was pretty good. Malcolm Brogdon he didn't shoot well, but okay. Grant Williams was bad in this game. Terrible game for Grant Williams. If anything, I think Grant just needs to be more consistent. He just needs to be. We need to see kind of like a regular performance. I'm not really interested in, hey, this is a great Grant Williams game. Oh, this was a bad Grant Williams game. Everybody's going to have up and down, right? But you want to see more consistency out of him. Peyton Pritchard got 13 minutes, hit a few shots. Luke Cornett was in a couple minutes. Sam Hauser hit his first 2 threes, missed his second 2, so he shot 50% from 3. That's good. So yeah, that was that. But I did see a couple things in this game that made me think, oh wow, Joe Mazzulla, he scored a couple points in this great timeout debate. Everybody wants to get on to, everybody talks about Joe Mazzulla's timeouts and I get asked about that on the radio. You heard Sean Grandy make a joke about it on the broadcast. What game was it? Was it Toronto or Orlando? Where he said, hey, you live long enough, you see everything. Joe Mazzulla calls a timeout. It's a topic of conversation. And he's one. I had this conversation in yesterday's podcast where I think sometimes you got to call a timeout. And I think ultimately, before I get into this, there's a balance, and he's right and we're right. And there's a balance, and he has to be open to adjusting in certain situations. Like I said in yesterday's podcast, sometimes you just need to call a timeout to get some people some rest, and substitutions be damned. They're going to make their subs. You got to trust your guys to be better than their guys when they're fresh. You just got to trust it. Right. if you trust your guys to do the right things, you also got to trust them to be better than the other team. Matchups be damned. And we have to be open to the idea that, hey, maybe the timeouts don't always work the way we think they're going to work. For example, Joe Mazzulla called a timeout in the third quarter. There was a Knicks were on a 7-0 run. Knicks outscored the Celtics 7-5. It ended up being a 14-5 run. Celtics didn't get those 7 points back. Celtics didn't get any big stop and say, oh, okay, good thing you called that timeout. That really worked. I think a lot of times when people say, okay, oh, got to call a timeout here. There's a timeout. We feel good. Call the timeout. Then kind of what happens afterwards doesn't matter. All we know is that you called the timeout. You did it. Now let's reset, go out there. And if it doesn't work, you say, all right, whatever. But it's not whatever. Because if the timeout doesn't work, then maybe letting the guys play through it would have worked. But Joe called the timeout, and I'm not disagreeing with that. Like, I think you should have called the timeout there. But he's going to point to that and say, hey, we gave up. We got outscored after that. Fourth quarter, Thibodeau calls 2 timeouts. Oh, this was a quick one. Derek White hits a 3-pointer. It's a 10-point game, and he calls a timeout. Okay, you don't want them to get any momentum. You want to get guys back on track, fine. But also, Jayson Tatum was about to check in at the next stoppage, and you gave them the stoppage for him to check in. Well, I just said you got to trust your guys to be better than the other guys that they're, with their matchup. But you're also letting Jayson Tatum back in the game, MVP candidate. And the Celtics went on an 18-8 run. Thibs called 2 timeouts in that stretch. Didn't stop the Celtics. What good was that? My whole point is, if we're going to be critical of Joe Mazzulla when he doesn't call the timeouts, let's give him the points that he scored when he's right. I bring it up to say, sometimes you don't call the timeout. Sometimes the timeout is more for, oh, well, this is what I'm supposed to do now, so I'm just going to call a timeout. Like, we're all conditioned. Oh, 7-0 run. Ugh. 7-0 is that. Okay, you didn't call a timeout there. You got to call it if it's 9-0 or 10-0 because we expect it. I've said this on the podcast before. We have a cadence in our heads. We've watched enough basketball, and everybody kind of calls the timeouts at the same fashion. There's a run. There's a little bit. You just like 5-2, and you say, okay, 5-2. It's not a big deal. 7-2. We need to score here. They didn't come down 9-2. All right. No timeout there. All right. Okay. That should have been a timeout. I think that should have been. You're all at home debating. I think that should have been a timeout. Hopefully you get a stop here. Oh, 11-2, 12-2. They hit a 3. That was a 3. Oh my God. Now, yeah, timeout. Thank you. How many times have you said that when a coach calls a timeout? Thank you. Right? But we don't pay attention to what happens afterwards. Joe Mazzulla does. And you got to give him credit. You got to give him credit for there's a reason behind it. He is a young coach, an inexperienced head coach for sure. But he's not dumb. He's a pretty smart guy. And you watch the mic'd up stuff and some of the behind the scenes stuff, and you start to piece together the little things. And, he's not going to be like Ime. Ime Udoka would come out after a game like this and be a lot more pointed with his criticism. That's his style. Some coaches do that. Other coaches don't. Joe's not going to do that very often. Not to the press, but he does do that in behind the scenes. It's not like he just lets these guys go behind the scenes. And he has a reason for calling timeouts the way he does. And I'm for it. I think, hey, challenge the norm, challenge the convention. Sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong. And as long as he understands, okay, I was wrong in this spot. And he said it a couple of times, so hopefully he's adjusting on the fly. It's not even the AllStar break yet, so hopefully he's figuring things out. And there are opportunities later on where he will start using it a little bit more. I wanted to highlight these because that there are points in his favor. And we can't ignore when we're arguing about something, and even if you're still steadfast in your belief, that doesn't mean you get to discount the other side scoring points. You don't get to discount the other side's evidence. If you're in a court of law and you're winning the case and the other side presents good evidence, you can't be like, I don't care about that evidence. I'm right. No, good evidence. You're like, oh, damn, that was good evidence. How does that affect my argument? Do I need to rethink my argument? Do I need to adjust my argument? Do I need to do anything to maybe go the other way just a little bit? Just soften just a little bit. It's all part of it. That's how we do things. That's how we come to actual solutions. Celtics need to find a solution pretty quick because the Lakers are in town. It's LeBron. It's Anthony Davis. And that's going to be a tough one because they're going to be up for this one. Lakers Celtics is always a thing. And this is going to be a big one. Saturday night, 8:30. Here's what I'm going to do. I am not going to do an immediate post-game podcast because it's an 8:30 game. It's on ABC. It's going to be late. This is a 7:30 TNT game, and I'm recording this at 3:30 in the morning. So I apologize. I am not going to record a podcast at 4:30 in the morning and go to bed at 5 or 5:30. I am going to go to sleep, wake up on Sunday, and then late Sunday morning, early Sunday afternoon, I will record a podcast and release it then. Ultimately, it'll only be a few hours difference, but don't expect one right away. It's still Sunday. It'll be there all day Sunday. It'll be there all day Monday. So that will effectively be the Monday podcast. So if you'd like to subscribe, get that show sort of post game, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whatever app you use. Want to subscribe on YouTube? Please do that. Hop in the comments. Tell me I suck. Tell me I'm great. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right. Whatever it is, hop in there. Let me know. Discuss things with fellow Celtics fans. And if you are a subscriber, I'd love it if you share the podcast, tell your friends and everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.